Mercedes, the military realtor. Today, we're going to go over what was my first experience grabbing my first property. VA loan success story. Typical, obviously. I advocate for the VA loan all the time, 24/7. And this is pretty much how I got my first house when I was on active duty. So this was back in 2017, and it feels like a long time ago. Looking back, um, there were some mistakes made. There were some really good things that I did, and there were some, I'm not gonna say questionable things, but like I said, there were some bad things, there were some good things, but we're gonna cover the entire process from beginning to finish, just so I could share my story with you because there were a lot of things that I didn't know. I didn't have any guidance from siblings or parents or even really anyone at my command, and a lot of us, we want to figure things out on our own. We're the lone wolf type, we rely on our research, but this just makes it so much easier. I wish I had a video like this to really reflect upon, from the whole process, right? So from beginning to finish. So if you're E2, E3, E7, you're an officer, O1, O4, it doesn't matter. This video can help you not only with understanding the process, again, because a lot of these folks, they buy one house and then they sit on it for a while, right? And then 10 years go by and they think the process may be the same as before. Some things do change, some things don't, but this is my personal experience from around 2017. And now, obviously, I'm a licensed realtor, so I know the experience nowadays as well. And I would say in those last years, it hasn't changed as much, but I definitely know a lot more now, obviously with a lot more experience, and then being licensed on the professional side, right? So now I'm getting the perspective that my realtor was going through, right? So it's just a very, very different perspective. So really, really want to talk about that. I think it's definitely going to be helpful, and it really makes it not so scary because it was intimidating for me, um, but it really wasn't. It was, but it wasn't, and it. Thank you to God, it went well. But I had to be creative. I had to really be on my toes. A lot of problem solving, because, like I said, I had no help. So things were kind of blindsiding me. I had a good realtor. I don't remember a lot of the things, this, that, but I know he was a great realtor. At the end of the day, reflecting back, we got everything we wanted, and he even helped me sell my home a few years later once I made my money. So we'll go through all of that, and we'll actually go through the property itself. So I believe I'm gonna screen share with you, and you'll be able to see all the numbers too, and you'll see the property as well, right? I know sometimes people tell stories about properties and it's like a dump or like the size of a closet or something, so I'm going to show you exactly the type of property that I was living in, right? So all right. um, so let's see, where does this story start? So for a lot of us, right, we're in the barracks possibly, right? E1, E2, E3, E4, E5. Hopefully not E6. You're in the barracks, but up to E5, you're still in the barracks, and you may be at that point, even at E4, itching to get out, right? The parties may be too wild, the shenanigans, the just the buffoonery, all the stuff. I know it eventually it gets old, right? And you're just living there with some party animals, and you realize that you can use your VA loan, right? I would say one of our best benefits, if not the best benefit, um, is, and not just financially either, not just monetarily if we're talking about ROIs either, but using the VA loan and that 0% down. That's a big deal. That's a really big deal, right? So you're an E5, you're an E4, you're thinking, okay, I can get out of the barracks, right? Depending on what branch, E4s can get out of the barracks. If the barracks are full, Obviously, if you're married or if you have a dependent, different types of dependents. Obviously, married is in that. But there's a few different ways, right, where you can get out of the barracks. So there's an option to obviously go into base housing. Now, well, what's the rundown with base housing? So I'm not here to say that base housing is the worst, right? And a lot of people are going to say, well, of course you're a realtor, you want people to buy houses and this and that, all this stuff. Okay, look, base housing is not it. You make no money in base housing at all. That's it. That's what it comes down to, right? Now, if money isn't the objective or the numbers don't work out because of the duty station, or maybe your family needs a little bit more support on base for whatever reason. Your spouse, you guys have 4 kids, and your spouse uses the CDC, right, for the kids, and maybe they're set up with the school, and living on base is perfect, and you guys love living on base, right? You love um, you love colors, right? You love all the base stuff that happens on base. The formations running around and stuff like that. Jets flying over, guns going off, stuff like that. But some people don't, right? Some people want to really get away from that and not necessarily be military all the time. Just there all the time, right? You're in your camis all the time. You're on deployment. You're here. You got your neighbors, right? And then the on base community too. I'm sure a lot of you guys know that that these on base pages, whether it's the buy sell trade, whether it's the command pages, whether it's the spouse pages, whatever it is, there's always some drama going on. Like the military just loves drama. I tell people sometimes, I'm like, you don't understand base housing. It's like base housing is Jerry Springer type stuff. It's pretty hilarious. So some people don't want to live there, right? And like I was talking about, you don't make any money, right? You're not making any money. They take pretty much all your BAH and they use it, right? And then who manages the homes? That's a third party company, right? That's a third party servicing company that owns the homes and is taking care of those homes, right? So you're waiting for maintenance, which can be quick. I'm not here to say that any of their maintenance teams are bad or anything like that. They vary per every base, and like I said, per every company that's running that management. If you've ever been to base housing, you know the layouts as well. A lot of them are townhouses. A lot of them are very smushed together. Some of them are four, right? You know that depending on your rank, you get a different type of house size. We know those things. So if you don't, if that doesn't sound ideal to you, I wouldn't really even tell you to go try it, because the process to get in and then to get out, it's not impossible. But if you're listening to this and that doesn't sound appealing to you, I wouldn't go find out, right? I'm telling you, right? And at the time, right, I have no partner, no kids, right? So this is a different scenario than some like I described. There may be someone that has a lot of kids, uses the CDC, the base is a big thing for them, the partner's hooked up with the spouse group and has a lot of support there. Great. If that works for you, you're still losing a bunch of money that you could make, but to each their own, to each their own. And you can balance the two as well, right? You can go purchase a property off base, live off base for the minimum of a year, right? That's a fact that a lot of people don't know. So the minimum time you need to live in the property as it being your primary residence is 1 year, and there are other circumstances that could change that number too. Like if your family size is increasing in size, you're having a kid, you're taking on a elderly parent, something like that, a dependent, or you're moving duty stations. So don't forget that. So you could do the two, right? You can go get your own separate, your own private property, buy that, live in it for a year, however long you want, and then you want to say, hey, I want to go, I want to move on base, and I don't want my BH anymore, right? Okay, so if you wanted to, you can get on the list and you can go live on base. Great. Now you're not getting BAH. You have to remember that. So if you still own this property that you first bought, you got to have a renter in there. And if for some reason this renter is not there, is delinquent, whatever it is, then you have to come up somewhere to pay that, of course, right? Which isn't an issue at all, but you have to know that your BH is tied up right over here compared to like, oh, maybe if you're renting somewhere cheap, you can rent somewhere for $1,000, right? Or like a room. That's smart for a lot of guys. If they buy a place first, guys and gals, and days and zays, ems, whatever, I don't know. So, um, so if you're over here and let's say you have a 5 bedroom, you buy a place, great, you're in there for the minimum amount of time, you can leave this place, go rent a room from another buddy of yours, maybe another buddy of yours just bought a place too, right? You go rent a room from him for, I was in San Diego, Imperial Beach, I was renting a room with all utilities and everything in Imperial Beach off of 13th Avenue and Imperial. You guys know that there's a taco spot right down the street from the light, um, like $435 a month, right? But let's say if at that time I had this 5 bedroom house, like I'm saying, you could pad split this house, right? Rent out every single room, 5 bedrooms, or whatever the heck you want to do. Rent all those rooms out. Let's say for $1,000 each in a house, right? Because it has a garage, it has a backyard, whatever amenities, right? Let's say you rent each one for $1,000 to 5 dudes that are also trying to get out of the barracks, right? Or for $750, whatever price. Well, let's say $1,000 each, everything included, Wi-Fi, utilities, everything, right? With 5 people in there, that's 5K on that property right there, right? Is the mortgage on that house 5K? I hope not, but that's the point, right? Okay, let's say your mortgage is 3K, right? Okay, well there's your 2K split. You put a little bit away for taxes and insurance and expenses and stuff like that. So this cookie could be cut in a million different ways, Um, so don't be shy about it. So yeah, base housing, like I said, that's an option. I'm not opposed to that. I don't want anyone to think that I sway a certain way. No, I sway in the way that is best for you and that's going to best serve you. Whether that results in me helping you buy a property or sell property, great. If the best thing is for you to rent, great. If the best thing is for you to wait where you're at, great. If the best thing is for you to wait in the barracks, great. Whatever it is, I'm here to help you kind of figure out what you want exactly, to zone in on that and refine that, and then you can take that route. And because you're having some advice, if you do consult with me, right? I'm not your advisor, but if you do consult with me, then you have a little bit more of reassurance of, okay, someone that's been through this path already can help guide me. They can tell me not to go down this way or to go down this way, depending on who you are, right? So everything's different for everyone. All right. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. Oh man, hold up, guys. I gotta see if this is live. I may have a technical issue, but that's all right. I'll post it later. Um, but I just want to see if this is going live for you guys. No, I don't think so. I'll fix that some other time. But yeah, if you guys have any particular questions, it would really help if you put them in the comments, right? About the VA loan, about the process, about if you've been through the experience, and anything else military related as well. I talk to people about their careers, about transitioning out, going in, and career planning while they're in as well, because it's super important that career planning, having someone that's been out, not someone that's out that's never been in. That's a different story. Someone that's been in and has gotten out, and especially someone enlisted too. It's different. We know also while being in the difference between the two groups, but it's very different. So having a resource, right, of someone that's been out, and that actually hears you. I'm sure a lot of y'all have talked to career counselors and people like that at commands that they really don't listen to you. They're not listening to what you want in life, what schools you want to go to, what qualifications you want, what command you want to go to, or your family problems, right? Your detailer doesn't care about if you have someone that's a medical dependent, they care about that, but other stuff, so talking to someone that you can really connect with, and that understands you and sees you. And it's different, especially on the civilian side. I've just talked to a lot of people that they this thinking that we develop in the military. A lot of times they don't track with it. They're not understanding how fast it is. They're not understanding all the different variables at play. And for us, it's a little bit easier because we've done mission planning, we've done operations, we've done flight schedules, we've done maintenance schedules, we've done all these types of cycles. So being able to speak to someone, not that just out, not that they're out, just out, but also that they have served. I'll say that that's an important factor as well. And when I was in, right, everyone around you is in, and they're scared. You know, your E7s, your E8s, your E9s, your O4s, O5s, they've never been out. They joined just like us, most likely 17, 18 years old, right? And they have no idea what's out there. So a lot of times they'll tell you, hey, stay in, you know, just do a few more, just do a few more. Well, what if you get really good orders and all these things, but they've never experienced being out. And it's incredible to see some of the fine men and women that I meet as a veteran in a lot of the groups and networking that I go to, and they're about to get out. You know, they're at 20, they're retiring, or however many years, and they're scared. They are scared. So no, not even waiting longer would have prepared you more. I'm just reflecting upon that now. But right, someone getting out at 4 years, right? You're scared. You know, you're a little frightened. But even if you stayed in longer and said, you know, well, let me just build up my career. Let me just get out of debt, save up some money. Boom. Then you get to 10 years. Then you're like, oh well, I'm not out of debt. Yeah, let me do it some more. Now you're at 12 and a half. Then you're at 15. Then you're like, well, let me just wait till 20. Then you get out and you're still scared. You're because you still have never done it. You still have never. So you just pushed it off, right? You just said, let me just stay in, be secure, right? And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with staying in at all, at all. It's for a lot of people. You know, some days I think about, is it still for me? You know, because I could most likely go back in as an officer, and I think about it, but it's for some people, right? It's for some people. So don't think that I'm advocating for everyone to get out. That is not the case. Some people actually need to stay in, like they really, really do. And it's usually those people that horribly failed room inspection. You know those people that they got some questionable stuff in there. Um, but anyways, regardless of that, so your E4, E5, whatever it is, let's say we're going with this scenario in the barracks, and I'm giving this scenario because there are a lot of folks, right, that are in this situation. We will get to the part of the actual transaction. We will get there. We're right there. All right. So you want to get out of the barracks, right? Like I mentioned, there's a few ways. You have a dependent. The barracks are full. You make enough rank, right? Those are really the only three ways I've ever heard ever. Unless you're, yeah, that's pretty much it. There are some other bases that have like nicer barracks. Like in San Diego, there are these like two towers or something. Kind of like on the conventional side of San Diego, we're all like 32nd Street, right, type over there. So, but they take your BAH, and I'm pretty sure they take all of it. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they take all of it. But they're nice apartments, right? And it's like it's an apartment, but you have your side, your roommate has their other side, and then there's a kitchen, washer and dryer, right? Very, very nice. I was like, this is amazing. This is a super barracks. Like, this is cool. And then the person told me, oh well, like we have to pay for it. I'm like, you have to pay? This should be. I'm pretty sure Air Force is living in these types of places like since the 80s. But that's neither here nor there. But so that there's different variations. Don't get swayed by that one. I'm telling you, don't. That one's nice in San Diego, sure. Do not get swayed by it. I'm telling you, right? The quicker you mature and learn about your finances and understand wealth and how to create wealth and how to use your benefits, the better off you're going to be in life. I promise you 1,000%. I know you want to hang out with your buddies. You want to go to the bars all the weekend. You want to hang out in the barracks. You want to do what they do, whatever it is, go shoot guns, do all this stuff. But I really want you to think about where you want to go long term, right? Because for some of these folks, the party doesn't stop. These folks get older, right? They become E7s, E8s, and they're still those very immature E2s, E3s, E4s, E5s, right? We have to remember that. You see, I didn't mention E6 because I was an E6 there. We're just perfect. We're right there. We 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 pretty much we held it all together. But anyways, they just grow up and they stay immature, and those are the folks that get the DUIs, the E7s, the E8s. That they get no reprimand, they get a slap on the wrist, they get moved to a different command, and they get hooked up. Anyways, regardless of that, just think about that, right? Because you'll also see a difference too, possibly in your rank. Like you'll just realize you'll be hanging out with some guys, some gals, and that the maturity level, you're ready to level up. You're ready for that responsibility. You're ready to lead. You're ready to get that rank, right? You're ready to earn it. Um, and that's like stepping into home ownership. That's stepping into a little bit more knowledge about your TSP or your BRS investing account, right? That's a little bit more knowledge into how to properly save money, where to actually save your money, not under your mattress, not in a really bad savings account that has low ROI, right? And all of that is maturity. I'm not telling anyone that you have to grow up and be a serious adult. Trust me, I still am not, and I definitely was not back then. With yeah, at that age, being an E6 and having money and being in SoCal, right? You can still be yourself, but you can be smart and increase your financial literacy and your education about wealth, so you're understanding all of it, and it becomes great, right? So let's go over how I got there. So I was in the barracks, right? At E5, I was able to put in, and the barracks were pretty full, so they let me out of the barracks with that chip. Great. So I'm an E5. I'm in San Diego. I am not in San Diego. No, I made E5. Um, oof. Okay, so I made E5, and I actually, the first thing I did was I went to renting, and that was really because I didn't have any education or any guidance. If I had the education and guidance, I would have been prepared at E5 with what I needed to step into home ownership. I truly believe that 1,000%, and you can too. And you don't have to be an E5. If you could set yourself up as an E4 as well, right? It's just getting you in the right position. We have to play chess from the beginning, and I like to really talk to people. And you're never late. I'll tell you, you're never late. You're never late. Never. I'll say that you're never late to start investing in any way, in stocks, real estate, business, in yourself, whatever it is. But the earlier the better, right? I personally like that, so that we're setting up good habits, right? And we can see things early, and we can understand it, because it takes time. It's not just immediately. Like it takes time for me to bother you, for you to even realize I exist, to see this video, to see it enough times, and to realize, man, Mercedes really cares about me, and really wants me to understand this. And by then, you may be in E5. It's going to go by just like that. But the earlier, the better, right, to get you set up on the front end. So if I would have had guidance, I would have been a homeowner right there as an E5. But I didn't, and that's okay. That's okay. So I immediately stepped into renting. I rented with, yeah, I rented. I had two buddies. Well, one of them, he was in my unit. This one, he just knew him, and that's a little weird. And so my buddy, he left that apartment and was like, hey, I'm leaving this place, blah, blah, blah. You want to move in? So I moved in with him. I didn't know him very well. He was a cool dude, except for he had a dog, a puppy. He had a puppy. And, it was just bad. It was bad. We worked opposite shifts, which was good. No, we didn't work opposite shifts. We didn't. At one point we did, but basically he had no training for the puppy at all. No care, no crate, nothing. Just wanted to leave it in the bathroom while we were at work, and it just, it hurts my heart. I've seen this before too in the barracks, people trying to hide pets, and I just see it a lot with military. It's like we don't have the time. It's a little selfish, I think, but we don't have the time to properly give them. We don't have the attention and the love to really care for them. Now, if you can, more power to you. But I've just seen a lot of not good times like that. So that was an okay situation, but I wanted to get the heck out of there quick, right? So good thing I didn't necessarily sign a lease with him. So I was able to, well, things lined up well, and then I got out of there, and then eventually he got out of there. But while I was there, I was saving up my money. That's it, just meal prepping, making all my food th- throughout the week, and that's how I saved a lot of money. Honestly, was renting really low, meal prepping. The car that I had was at a good interest rate, and I put money down. Before I bought that car, we were on deployment, and me and my buddy, the one that moved out of the apartment, we were talking about we were looking at cars. We were doing research. He's a college kid type. And we're running numbers, and we're like, how much money you got saved up? How much money you? And we were stacking up money that deployment, and it was a great time. And we were able to come back and buy cars. I bought my first car ever, which was great, used, and I believe his was also used. As well, and we loved our cars. We loved our cars, and we took care of them, but we had to learn the lesson to save to get to that point, to really to really to really appreciate them. I'll tell you that much. I'll tell you that much. To really appreciate them, we had to save up that money. But that was the framework right there. Was from the beginning. I come from poverty, so I have a lot of foresight with financial understanding, awareness, literacy, savviness, and stuff like that. Not saying I'm super frugal or I don't like to spend my money. I'm just aware of it. So saving that money and making sure I was getting a deal on my car, on my used car, that was a great foundation. Renting really low for a great price in the area, right? Just a room, basics. I didn't need any. I just needed the bathroom and a kitchen and my room. That's it. And parking. That's it. Other than that, so keeping everything simple there. Expenses as well, right? So cooking, saving from going out to eat, not doing all this crazy drinking. Most of my money was going towards travel. Honestly, I traveled a lot on my own, and my car, and yeah, just upgrades for my car, and then everything else is going into savings and stocks and my TSP. So savings, stocks, TSP, using credit cards for all my regular bills, all my monthly bills, all that type of stuff. The stuff that you're already gonna buy, use great credit cards that have great points. Chase and Amex are two great places to start. Um, and use them every month, and pay them off every month, right? Run the numbers on your money that's coming in. I remember what it was, being an E2, E3, getting like $500 every 2 weeks or something like that. And I was blown away at that time. I was blown away coming from where I come from. I'm like, what do I do with all this money? And then fast forward as an E6, making like 36 every 2 weeks, 30, yeah, something like that, 33 maybe. Um, so got into the apartment, saved my money, kept my head low, did research, was doing research, was talking to people, was just learning about real estate, about finances and stuff like that. Then a couple other buddies of mine, I mean, it may have been me, I don't know, but I was like, let's get a house, like let's move into a house. So then we started renting a house, and that was okay. I had a falling out with one of the roommates because he didn't want to pay rent when he moved out. So then I had to get his chief involved, and then that got. But a lot of times, like moving in with your friends, it's can be hit or miss. You have to really know that relationship. You have to really like if they get drunk and they get violent, they get weird, they get some. You don't live with them. Do not live with them. If you know that about them, first of all, you shouldn't be friends really with them. But I get it. I get it. I've been there. But don't live with them, because that if you think it's bad, just out when you don't know them. And maybe you guys live in the barracks and you're pushing him drunk in his room and just leaving him. that's different when you guys live in the same house and you guys have liability for things, for broken windows, for broken boards, broken walls. You got Kyle punching holes in walls. The dude with the monster tattoo on his back. Um, so that's something to consider. Something to consider. But we had this beautiful. It was a beautiful house, honestly. Beautiful. It was a beautiful house. It was a 3 bedroom, 2 bath, 2 car garage, nice sized front yard, big backyard with grass, like thick grass, and they came and they maintained it, and there was a tree back there as well, like a apple tree or something like that. Yeah, so some type of tree. Anyway, some type of tree back there. But it was a huge backyard, huge. Like if I had dogs, they would have loved it, and there's still room if you want to put a shed back there, or you can put another house back there. That was how much there was back there. But it was great. We stayed there for a couple years, and then I got transferred down to San Diego, and then that's when the idea of homeownership crept into my brain, and that's when it started to click. Right, I started at that time. Right, I got picked up to go to this team. It was only E5s and above, so it was big boy rules, and so you're around more mature folks that are the same rank as me, but they're older than me, obviously higher ranked, just more mature people. So you're having different conversations, and started getting that real estate bug a little bit. So I'm still in E5, and at this point yeah, straight out of SEER school. I get this. I get that room that I told you guys about. $400 and some dollars in Imperial Beach. I get that room. Great. It's two other service members and this other older lady. They're great. They're great people. Great gals. They're all girls. Great gals. It was a great time. Great people. Um, but super low rent. Everyone was clean. Everyone respected everyone's space. It was a great time. And it was cool, close to work from me, because by that, close to work for me, I'll say that. Um, so then I got in contact with the local realtor, and I wanted to make sure that we connected. That's an important thing, right? Is do you actually connect with that person, right? It's not You don't have to do real estate with someone from the VA, or um, from someone from USAA, or someone from Navy Federal, right? You can choose whatever realtor you want, like any other contractor, or like a surgeon, or like a doctor, or a lawyer, right? It's your choice to choose our professional services to use. And so I wanted to make sure that I had really connected with this realtor, and it was an interview process, right? And that's important. I'll tell you that. Number one, if you don't connect with me, right, then I highly suggest don't. We can consult, but necessarily don't do business with me. You're not forced to. You should do business with someone that you can trust, and that you respect, and that communicates well, right, and that you understand. Um, you there's just different types of people, right? Like you're not necessarily, depending on the person you are. I'm not gonna say which parent or whatever, but let's say it's the one you don't like, or at least, like, I don't know what you got going on. Or let's say one of your parents' friends, right? That you've known for a while. It's like if you try to possibly do something with them, you may not connect, right? And it may be through age, it may be through culture, it may be through a plethora of things. But number one, don't discriminate, right? So you can't discriminate by age, by sex, by race, anything like that. So I'm never condoning anything like that. But can you communicate with each other, right? That person could have 20 years on you, or could have 20 years up or 20 years down. It doesn't matter. But can they actually see you? Can they hear you for what you're saying? Are they hearing your criteria and what you want? Not, oh, I just need to get this deal done so I can get you out of the way, collect my money, and go on to the next one. No, no, no. Are you listening to me and what I want? So it's an interview process, and I interviewed them. and it went well. And then we signed a contract together. So between him and I, we signed a buyer's contract, right? So basically, my realtor and me, right? I'm his client. He's my agent. We signed together, and now we have a buyer's agreement. And that agreement says, hey, we're going to look for a house in San Diego County for you. We could put some criteria in the contract, whatever it is. But it's pretty much just a contract saying we have that relationship together. I understand the relationship. He explains to me what an agent is. He explains to me what a client is. He explains his duties to me. Great. So throughout this whole process, too, you have to remember I said there's an interview process, but the whole thing is an interview process as well because I have that contract with him. That doesn't mean I'm obligated to buy anything, right? That doesn't mean I'm obligated to buy anything. You have to remember that. So a lot of us realtors will sign that contract with someone, and we'll sometimes put it in there too, depending on your brokerage. But we tell them, hey, anytime you feel uncomfortable, you don't want to work with me anymore for whatever reason, we can break this contract. And it just comes back to you realize sometimes you shouldn't be working with certain people, and it's going to be more difficult. There's going to be a lot of friction there. Rather, hey, look, if I'm not for you at any moment in this, right, I can recommend someone else that is more of a fit for you, your personality style, and your needs. I'm not a fit for you. And realtors can do that on the other end too. So don't be surprised if you're grouchy or you think you can push your realtor and try to push their buttons. Not push them in a positive way and having standards, but abusing them. They can also say, yeah, this isn't going to work, and they'll also fire you in a way. But don't forget that you can fire them at I'm not going to say at any time, at any moment. Like I said before, I am not your advisor. I'm not your advisor. I'm not your financial advisor. I'm not your agent. I'm not your realtor, unless we have a specific contract that explicitly states so. But I'm not your advisor specifically. All right, kind of got off track there a little bit. So we did. So I interviewed him. It went well, and I said, I know the type of person I am. I know what I want. I know this is a huge purchase. I know this is important, right? So I'm gonna do my research. I do a ton of research, watch a lot of YouTube stuff just like this, a lot of blogs, like on my website, resources, blah blah blah, right? Just studying up, and I pretty much get MLS access from him. No, I don't. I don't get MLS access from him. I get something similar so I can look at properties, and I make a list. And I make the list, and we have a criteria, right? So I'm making this list based off of the criteria that we sat down and spoke upon. So it's important to sit down and talk about, well, what's the strategy? Do you have a strategy? Let's talk about what do you want, right? Are you single? Do you have a partner? Do you have kids? Do you have pets? Do you have cars? How much do you comfortably want to spend? What do your expenses look like? I like to talk to people in depth about the whole financial picture, about your whole life. What do you got going on? Because if you tell me, hey man, I want to go to Zimbabwe in 5 years and live there, and that could affect this property here and what you want to do, right? Vastly. So we really need to talk about the large picture of what your aspirations are, and it's not going to be immediate. It's not, hey, well, where are you going to be in 20 years? Tell me right now. Look, it's not. It. We need to talk about what are your hobbies? What do you like? What do you want? What do you want out of life? Do you want a family? Do you want kids? Let's talk about your orders here. How long are your orders here? What MOS are you in? Do you see yourself rotating to another duty station that's out of the 100-mile radius? Or do you think your MOS, you can go up to Camp Pendleton or something like that, right? Or can you go, to this team? Or can you? So those are conversations, right? Because there's a whole complex web, right? For a lot of us that do a lot of strategic planning, strategic thinking, ops planning, stuff like that, maintenance planning, we know there's a lot of overlapping cycles that go on, right? And we have to kind of connect those dots as best as possible, because it changes your investment strategy down the road. So we nailed down my criteria. I wanted a single family house, at least 2 bedrooms, with a 2-car garage and a backyard. That was pretty much the basis for me. It could be a fixer upper. That's okay with. I'm okay with that as well. And here's a gem: you can buy a fixer upper with your VA loan, right, and have the cost for the rehab attached to the loan, right? So you could do a rehab on a place, and that is actually where you can make a lot of your money. That's where some of the money is made, is in forced appreciation, um, and by buying a property at a deal price. Which at a deal price, it's usually beat down. Not always, but just usually it needs a little bit of TLC, and that's where you make your money, is putting in the effort right there to make those improvements and have the capita to make those improvements. Because a lot of the main reason a lot of people don't do improvements because they don't have the money. They just, and if they do, maybe it's not really going to add that much value. But anyways, so we nailed down this criteria. I start I start looking through the list. I'm looking through all the photos, right? And you have to refine your criteria. So you have to be a good searcher, right? In this case, if you want to be proactive, this is me, because I'm like, I want to do this on my timeline. I know what what I like. I know what I like. Let me go do it, and then let me get this list and give it to him and see what he thinks, right? So you can search, or that could be the duty of your realtor to search for properties for you based off of your criteria, right? So don't think that this is something you have to do and you have to completely learn. You don't. That could be the responsibility of your realtor, but I still want you to have a clear cut criteria of, this is what I want exactly. I have a little bit of wiggle room on some things. I have some things I am not wiggling on, that these are my no-go zones of, I am not flexible on this, no semper gumby on this right here, and that's okay, right? So I make this list. We go see some of them. I don't even get out for some of them. Um, I don't. And I've looked at all these photos, right? I've looked at all the photos. I've looked at the descriptions. I've done all the numbers, right? I've done an analysis. I got it down. I got the list. It was like from 50 down to 15, and then like down to 10, and then it was, let's go see those 10. And for some of those, I didn't even get out the car. I was like, nah, this isn't it. For a few of them, and you know that they're having open houses, or it doesn't even matter if you schedule, if your realtor schedules a showing for 2 o'clock, and you drive up and you're like, I don't like this, I'm leaving. You think I'm gonna go walk this property that I already don't like from the outside? There's nothing on the inside that's gonna convince me. There could be a water slide from my bedroom to the couch in the living room or something. It's not gonna impress me if something on the outside already isn't what I want. Whether it's the layout of the street, is it a cul-de-sac? Is it a busy area? Maybe I didn't notice that. Looking at the maps, as well, because I'm also looking at map data. Right, I'm on Google Maps. I'm looking at what does the street level view look like, right? And then trying to get that at different times of day, and trying to see also traffic patterns, right? What are traffic patterns look like going to work at this time, right? I remember I was burning a quarter tank in my Jeep to to go to and from work. A quarter tank to go to and from work. It was horrible. It was horrible. But knowing traffic patterns, right? And then airports. That's something to consider too, right? And trains. That first house that I moved into that I told you guys about, the first morning I'm there, it's a Saturday morning. I get woken up at like 7 a.m. by a train. I'm like, what is that noise? I'm just like this is this an earthquake or something? And no, it's a train. It was a train, and I should have known that because I drove over the tracks to get there. But so those are some things to consider in your criteria as well, to know about, especially in San Diego. As you guys know, that area. I've been to someone's house where the airport planes, they don't stop till 11. I think 11. That's when the flight schedule closes for the airport there. But those are just a few things to consider. So set the criteria, went to these properties, didn't go in some of them, went in some of them, made my criteria. That's it. Made my annotations. We didn't find any. We didn't find any that I thought were worthy to put an offer in. And I was like, look, I don't think this is it. Let's try again next year. Right? Now that I'm a realtor, I hear that from my side. Ooh, he tells me, a client tells me that, like, oh man, I just spent so much time. You do spend a lot of time with buyers. Statistically, you spend about 38 hours working with a buyer versus a seller, you work about 19 hours. That's a fun fact. But he was a good sport about it, and regardless, he's got no other option. Hey, I'm not going to buy. There's nothing out there in the inventory in the area that I want. That's it. And there's nothing he could do, right? It doesn't necessarily rely on his search skills or my search skills, which those are variables, of course, but I don't hold him to it at all. It wasn't the right time. But I'll tell you when the right time was, and God was waiting, I guess. I mean, someone, you can call him God, I guess, but someone was waiting. Man. So, so we tear up the contract. Nothing comes of it. Great. Comes up to that summer. That summer, I think I'm 23. I'm 23 that year. I think 2017. I'm 23. I pick up E6. So obviously a pay bump. Obviously on your primary pay and also on your BAH. And I was like, this is nice. This is nice. In San Diego, you know that San Diego BAH, I'm telling you. So I was like, okay, great. It's been about a year. Let's kick this back up. So we did the same process. We met criteria, searched for that criteria, made the list, cut the list down, went in person to go look at them. We went to a few, but this one stood out. The one that I ended up purchasing stood out. And it stood out to me because it was private. It felt like an elderly community when we first drove in. And I'm sure it probably still does today. But it was a small community, maybe 50 homes. And it was up a hill, just up one big hill that then had 3 turnouts. So pretty much 2 cul-de-sacs this way, 2 cul-de-sacs this way, and then 2. So just upwards. Upwards this way with 3 going like this. And it was nice. It was a nice area, quiet, right? It had an HOA, which isn't always a negative, depends. But it was a quiet area. It was in a cul-de-sac, which I liked. I very much I don't like busy streets. I think about raising kids on busy streets, and it's not safe considered to me. But also it's just quiet, right? There's no road noise. You don't got Hondas driving up and down the street. Even though from the main road, what road was that? I don't even know. Getting off the 805 going east on one of the main roads, Telegraph, you could still hear the echo because it's kind of a valley. But it spoke to me. What I'm getting at was it spoke to me, right? And you have to have that moment, right? And you have to not be pressured to buy or to sell, right? And that's something that I know on the realtor side because I use that as negotiations. I have to. If you know this information, you have to use this information to best serve your client. So if I know something about the opposing side that they need to buy or they need to sell by a certain time or for whatever reason, right? A lot of realtors, right, they know how to counter back and forth because, okay, well, I know you need this by a certain day. Well, give us this in concessions, because the pipes are bursted or whatever it is. And then it's a win-win. It works out to a win-win. But basically, knowing that information can definitely help out. So it stood out. It stood out. It wasn't up to date. It wasn't super up to date. It had a nice wood floor, which I really did like. And it had like a natural groove in it too. So it was a very unique dark color wood floor. All the countertops were not updated. The cabinets were not updated. The fixtures were not updated. The bathrooms were not updated. The backyard, and that was okay. But that's what I knew I was looking for, right? That's what I knew I was looking for. Where I don't need all these bells and whistles. I know the value is in the work that you put in to create that value. And this point right here, when you put in all those renovations and it gets to this point right here, and you hit this peak, that's where it's the most valuable, right? Once you put in all this new stuff and you start using it, it becomes old again. Not necessarily the price of the home goes down, but the valuation of those renovations adding to the home, that goes down. That ROI goes down over time. Um, so that's where you make your money, right? You don't have to buy a burnt down, a fire sale property that's got 25-pound rats running around and all this crazy stuff. No, it's just got to be outdated. And it's the simplest thing. I mean, for a lot of people, the hardest thing in the updates is knowing what to update, having the capital to update, and then enduring the update. Actually working with not dirtbag contractors that actually get the work done. And that's what you're getting paid for, is that forced appreciation down the line if you choose to sell, or if you choose to pull money out of your home when it appreciates and stuff like that. So it was pretty outdated, but it was beautiful. It had good bones in it. It had a nice backyard that overlooked uh, kind of a valley, which was I thought that was very beautiful. I was very blessed for that. And it had a sunroom outside too, so kind of like a green room, sunroom type thing, which I love because I'm from Florida, and just the sun. Like I realize I'm pretty much like an iguana. I just need the sun, and it was great having that sunroom, being able to go in there and meditate, or I had a little table out there and I'd eat breakfast and read. And oh man, I haven't thought about that in years since I was there. Just sitting at that table and having breakfast, barefoot, and having a rug in there, and it was great. So we decided to put an offer in, right? I don't want to play back and forth, and your realtor will talk to you, and we'll get that vibe from you to really see, well, what's your intention, right? Do you are you serious about this property, or are you willing to possibly lose it to win some concessions on it, right? Which there is no right way of which one's better. It's up to you. If you really if that is the gem property, I don't I don't suggest overpaying for the property. I suggest paying what you believe it is worth. But I don't suggest playing around, because you're going to lose it over a couple $1,000s or however much it is that you're trying to get, right? So if that's the one, if you know that's the one, why would you try to play around with anything else? If you know that is the one, if that's the it's not it doesn't even have to be a 10, right? Let's just say out of everything you've looked at, that's the 8.5. That's the 8.5. But the average you've been seeing is 5.5s, some dusty 4.5s. Your best bet's to appreciate what you got and go with that 8.5, because it's more than enough for you. And if it's speaking to you like that, then that's the sign, right? You get this kind of moment in your head, and you're like, okay, like this could be the one, right? You see it, and you say this could be, and then you get inside, and you're like, oh, this may be. Okay, and then eventually let's put the contract in. Now we're at, this is going to be, right? This is going to be it. But you know that, right? I've never seen a property from the outside and I was like, oh, this is horrible. And I walked inside and it was just persuaded me. That you start seeing the difference of, okay, those are small things that we can improve, we can renovate, that are changeable, right? Great, we can improve those items versus, oh, this either it's going to take way too much money to change or it can't be changed. It's some type of infrastructure, something in the neighborhood, right? Whatever it is. All right, so moving on. So we put in we put in the offer, and I'm actually gonna I have the property pulled up here, um, and let me see. I think I'm gonna share it. So all right, we're gonna also share. Okay. All right. So right here, this was the property right here, Sherville Court. I'll show you some pictures first. All right. So this is the front. Right there behind the tree, there's that whole walkway goes down about 2 steps, and then there's a corner, and there's the front door right there. And then if you don't go down that path, there's a side gate that you can barely see, but that goes to the backyard. So there's a front patio area. That's where I would have like trash cans. I had the grill, and there's a sliding door and a window right there that leads to the kitchen. Right here, we've got the two-car garage. Um, that was great. We redid that garage, and it was cool. You see, we have neighbors here, right? So it is like technically a townhouse, and you share the roof. The roof was paid for by the HOA. They handled that. But our neighbors, they were great. They also had a kid, but I never heard them through the walls, through anything. I would see them, and they would have some parties very few times, but they were a great Mexican family that just very loving. And it was cool, you know, seeing their kid grow up, and just great family. It was a really really cool privilege and blessing to know them. So that's the front. That's the community name. So this is the hill that I was telling y'all, right? So this is the entrance right here, and it goes up the hill. So this is the entrance, right? This is the entrance to the home. This is you coming in right from the front door. And that's the wood floor that I was telling you about. I really like that. It had a great feeling on bare feet. Like it was a little textured, and it was fun, especially on socks too, running around and slipping and sliding. Over here, so this is the living room, right? We've got the fireplace. That was really fun, of course. We have a sliding door that goes out to the green room, and then this vaulted ceiling here. And there's two, you can see one window here, there's another window to the left. That was great too. And you can kind of see that here, and then you can see that there was a little bit of additional space right there in that nook as well for like a reading chair. Here's the sunroom. Here's the dining room area. So it steps up a couple steps, about 3 steps. Yeah, about 3 steps. And then here's the kitchen. So like I mentioned, the kitchen was all outdated, right? All the lighting, obviously the appliances and the cabinets, all outdated. And oh, right there, that's the front patio area. Here is the hallway bathroom. So that's a stand-up shower with a tub, one sink, one toilet in there, right? And just if you don't know, right? So if you see a property, and for the bathrooms it says like 3/4 bathroom, right? Something like that, or half bathroom. So every amenity here, every fixture is a quarter. So the sink is a quarter, the toilet's a quarter, the tub is a quarter, and the stand-up shower is a quarter. And then, so if it all adds up to one. So when you're looking at listings, it's very important to look at the photos and go through them and annotate, right, to double check on the features of the bathroom. That's something I notice even still now in real estate. If I'm putting in a listing, right, it can get confusing on how you're listing, because sometimes the system won't take quarters, or it won't take a half. So you have to put a 2, but it's not a 2. It's a 1.5, or it's a 1 3/4. So just make sure you're lining that up so that when you're doing your filtering, right, that is something to consider. So that's why when if I say, hey, I want a 3 bedroom 2 bath, or I want a 2 bedroom 1 bath, I'm willing to go at least one entirely upwards or one entirely down if I am comfortable with going down, but usually at least the one up. So if I want a 3-2 at least, I'm at least going to look at a 3-3 to put into the system at least. Um, Same thing with the 2-1. I would put a 2-2. Anyways, let's keep moving on. Here is the main bedroom. This is the main bedroom. These are photos from when I purchased it. So these photos don't have all the upgrades that I had in there, like the popcorn ceiling. I painted this room too. I had a way nicer bed in there. Um, yeah. Anyways, that bed was amazing. You veterans, don't skip, and military, don't skip out on a good bed, because that Tempur-Pedic, the one with that moves, the head moves and the legs move, and then you get a solid base too with a canopy. Man, that's how babies are made. I'll tell you that much. Anyways, so over here you can see the curtains for the for the closet, and then you can see the bathroom over there. We'll probably get more photos of that soon. This is the second bedroom here. There's one big old window there. Here we're back at the main bathroom. So it was a dual sinks here, tons of storage. Obviously, as you can see, outdated countertop, outdated lighting, big old mirrors. It was cool. It was cool having that amount of space. Here's the backyard. Yeah, so it's tiered, which wasn't bad at all because it's still a good amount of space, of course, and it wraps around the side as well. So it was a good amount of space. I loved it, and there was some good vegetation back there. I think that was very important for me, being a Floridian. Makes me feel like home, not like some places in even in San Diego itself, San Diego County itself, just a lot of dry plants and dry areas. So here's some more photos of that. This is this is a staging of the living room. That's not. This looks like virtual staging too. Yeah, we didn't. I don't think we even did actual staging. All right, so those are all the photos, just to give you a little bit of insight. Now back to the meat and potatoes here. Okay, so we're gonna look right here. Right, this is 2017. Right, this is just the spring. Right, so 400K. See the property right there, boom, 400K. It sold for 400. Now, what did they buy it for? They bought it 6 years before, right, for 255. So in 6 years, it went up 56.9%, right? 56.9%. In 6 years, this property that I don't know, but let's say they lived in, so it provided them shelter, and they lived in it for 6 years. I doubt they did. I think they did the floor, but other than that, they may put some money into the backyard. But other than that, I couldn't see any major renovations that they could have put in those 6 years. Right. So I don't know how much money they could have put in. Let's say they put in 45K somehow. Right. Sure. They put in 45K over that time. That would have brought them up to 300K. Right, and then they still sell for 100K more 6 years later. Great. All right, so that's none of my business, but I want you to remember that, right? 56.9% jump, 6 years from the sale, from the transfer of ownership, right? From selling from these people to me, right here, right? We got this BS here. I don't remember when I listed this for rent at all. Yeah, look, it was on there for a day. Listed for rent. that was probably me, honestly. I was like, nah, I found someone, because I ended up renting. I house hacked it, and I rented. We'll get into that. That's part of the story here. All right, so oh man, okay, I kind of look. All right, I'm gonna skip real quick in the story. That's what I bought it for, right? This is what we listed for. 3 years later, right? So they sold it for 56.9% more, right? And we don't know if there's concessions baked into this. I don't want to confuse you guys, but there could be some more concessions. So this could be like 380, and this could be really 275. You know, there's concessions that change what you actually paid for, but regardless of that, 6 years, we're going to say this 57% increase, right? Then 3 years from when I bought it, so then when I sold, right? Now this is what I listed. That's what I listed for, 490. 490, that's a 22.5%, right? In 3 years instead of now the 6, which matches with kind of their return, right? Because in 6 they got about 57, and these 3 I got about 22, you know, so that comes out to, well, if you doubled it, that's about 44. So I mean, in 6 years they outperformed, you know, but boom, come over here, right? That's what it actually sold for, right? With 515. Same thing. There could be some concessions as well, blah blah blah, but 515, right? So I bought for 400 right here, and then sold for 515. All right. Now I don't want to get too ahead of myself with the process here, in this. So right there, the offer we put in, right, got accepted, is 400 right there. So, wait, is this me? No. All right, cool. So we put the offer in. Like I said, I didn't want to play with this property. We looked last year, didn't find anything. This time I was like, you know, I wasn't pressed though. I wasn't. I have to buy. Do not ever put yourself in that position of I have to buy. And don't tell someone other than your realtor if you have to buy or if there's circumstances like that. And explicitly tell your realtor if you don't want them to, don't tell the other party these conditions that I've got going on, that I have to move, that you don't even tell them if I'm military or that I'm PC. Don't tell them XYZ, because it could be used later down the road in negotiations, whatever it is. So I didn't want to play. I didn't want to play with them. I knew this was the property I wanted. I liked it. It fit me. Cool. So let's put it in. Man, I'm getting a little error. All right. So we put the offer in, right? Your realtor. That can be their job. I'm not gonna say it's every realtor's job. It can be their job. They fill out the contract properly. Do it clean. We met up, we did it, everything was explained clear to me, except what do you mean I have to put money down? I thought this was a VA loan and I didn't need to put money down. Yeah, now I'm realizing this, and we just put the offer in. I thought I have a no money down VA loan. So why am I paying money? Well, then he had to explain it to me, and I had to realize, okay, this is just a part of my training. This is a part of learning. Could have my realtor done a better job? Sure. Could have I maybe not remembered if my realtor explained this to me, because I'm in the military and I'm stressed out, and we're in an op cycle in Island doing land warfare, getting ready to go to Iraq, blah 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 blah. You know, all this stuff. Sure, I could have forgot, but now I'll never forget. Right now I'll never forget. So earnest money. The best way to put this is pretty much good faith money that you're putting in the possession of the seller, which is usually the title company, could be the seller, doesn't matter, and it's safe because it's all should be all in the contract. But this money is basically so you're not wasting their time, right, going through with this contract, right? It's saying, hey, I'm going to do everything in my power to come to a deal with you, right? We're going to try to get through all these contingencies, the loan, the inspections, the appraisal, whatever else, right? We're going to make a good effort to do it, because you can have a lot of people that come and just take your time, right? If anyone came along and said, put an offer on that house, put an offer on that house, put an offer on this house, right? But they weren't serious about it. they could really waste your time in contracts and negotiations for weeks, if not months. But let's just say weeks. Just just 4 weeks, just a month, right? People don't even realize just 1 week, just going under contract once, just changing the status in the MLS for the listing can very much change the trajectory of that property selling for what it should sell. A lot of people don't realize that. So that earnest money is there to basically provide that good faith. It could be whatever the seller wants. It could be nothing. It could be $1. It could be $10,000. It could be $20,000. It could be diamonds. You know, it could be rubies or something that are valued at $10,000 if you guys are in agreement with that. Whatever it is. So in this case, it was about $4,000 in earnest money. Now, why does my newly E6? No, hold up. I don't think I picked up E6 until that summers. Anyways, man, where was I? I just had a brain fart. I just had the wildest brain fart thinking about picking up E6 when they told me that. So the earnest money, that's where we're at. So earnest money, $4,000. I'm like, where am I gonna have this money? What I'm saying is, as E6, as E5, you should have this money saved up, bro. I don't know what was going on in my head at that time. Yes, I had great credit. I had no debt. I had everything lined up, but I guess I didn't have the 4,000 that I just didn't want to touch it. Maybe I had it in my savings, and I know I definitely had it in stocks and stuff like that, but I definitely just didn't want to touch it. So I asked my dad, which I barely talked to that guy, and there's no way he was. But it was a shot in the dark. You know, maybe he was waiting my whole life with all this back pay child support, saying, you know, one day he's gonna come to me and ask for some money. Nah. So that didn't work out. So then I did some research, and I just waited, I guess, until it was the right timing. But one of my checks hit, and then I lined that up with. I think I could have taken some money out of my my credit cards, which is it's not a negative thing. If you need to and you work out the numbers and you know what you're doing, it's a benefit, and might as well use it if you can. So I think I took out about $2,000 in that, and then like my next check, I paid that off because it's at a higher rate because you're pulling cash out. But came up with the 4,000. So then the 4,000 gets sent over to them, to the title company. They hold that throughout the entire contract. Right now, here's the thing. This is why we can say that the VA loan is a zero down program, because you're not putting your earnest money down. You're not putting that money as a down payment on the property or on the loan, right? That earnest money may be used in the contract later on if you want to apply that, if you have some fees, if you have something like there are some admin fees, pretty much. That's what I would call it, to do your loan, to work with the title company. You pay for your appraisal on the front end, but that is another fee that you may pay, depending on the type of loan and client you are. But yes, your VA loan, you'll most likely pay that up front, but your earnest money can go towards that. Now, let's say we negotiate all concessions, right, and you don't have any fees, right, because I'm in this case, this is a hypothetical scenario. I've negotiated and I've gotten concessions from the seller to pay all of your fees, right? All of your fees, and maybe you're getting some more, your fees plus more. That it's not an uncommon occurrence. You know, the last transaction I did, we got what, $17,000 in concessions, right? $17,000 in concessions, right? That's the seller giving that money to the buyer, right? You would think the buyer's giving it to the seller, but it depends on the market, right? So you could get that money back. So if you don't owe anything for title and your admin fees, great. That $4,000 can come straight back to you, or it can go towards your fees, or it can go towards whatever you want. So we got through that hump, right? And we start getting into the contract, right, of the process of the contingencies. right? So we're working the loan, of course, we're working that. Simultaneously, we're waiting for the appraisal inspection. That's a big contingency because the appraisal has to appraise at the price that we put in for the property within a certain limit, but it has to hit that price. So, if we're going to offer 405, it has to appraise at 405, right? It has to. It's weird that it matches up, how the appraisals do match up. I don't know. That's a different conversation for some analysis there. But they have to match up, and you go through your contingencies in the contract. So, congratulations, you got your contract in, you're under contract. This is a big deal. It's a big deal because number one, you had the conversation with me, right, with your realtor in this scenario. We set your criteria up, right? We found the property. We put the offer in, and it got accepted. Because if they didn't want to accept that offer, they could counter back, or they could tell us to write a new offer, right? Or they could take a different offer. There's a million things that can happen, right? But they took the offer. Now you're under contract. Great. So now we're getting into the contingencies and negotiations. But we go through the contingencies. The major ones are going to be your loan contingencies, right? So making sure your loan stuff is good, credit, financials, blah blah blah. You're working with the lender to get all that stuff dialed in, and that'll get lined up. But he's waiting on these contingencies to go through because he needs to see reports on the house, right? So we've got different types of inspections depending on where you live. We have to do, in particularly, a I don't, is that a word? In particular, a foundation inspection because there was a crack. There was a crack in the foundation, right? So imagine I get to this point with this property, I find this property, and there's a crack in the slab. How is there a crack in the? I thought this was it. I thought this is the man. So it's game over. But it's not. It's not. The inspector goes through it, says, yeah, I think it's good. Cool, great, and it's my responsibility to clear that contingency if I'm okay with that. If I'm not okay with that, I can ask them to repair it. I can ask them to compensate for it through other concessions, or I can say I don't want the property. We discovered this, right? It's not, you don't go walk the property and then you write an offer for it and that's it. Dude, there are some properties that are and it'll be in the contracts, but it's take it as is, but that's not this type of thing. You have to go through the inspections, and then so we have our inspections, right? We did a foundation inspection here in Colorado. We do a lot of radon inspections, right? And it depends on the area. You have septic inspections. If you have a separate septic tank, usually in rural areas, you should do a septic inspection. Doesn't matter if you live rural or not, you should do a plumbing, right? So some will still call it septic, but in the rural sense, I'm talking about having a separate septic tank. That's a separate inspection than what some say is a standard single-family home septic system, which is your regular plumbing system. That's a separate type of different types of degrees. But I always recommend the plumbing inspection septic on a regular single-family house. Also your HVAC, also electrical, and sometimes roofing, depending. But the big three I would say is your plumbing, your HVAC, and your electrical. So I don't think I did any of that. I did not. I think I did like the foundation, and then I was all like, well, I mean, the appraiser is gonna do his report, right? So that's pretty much the same thing as an inspection, dog. Like, it's not. It's not. I'll tell you, it's not. Look, an appraisal inspection, very good. They're more focused on valuation, having things be in bad shape, do affect evaluation, and they do catch a lot of things, but I will say it's not going to replace an inspection. I'm not going to, if I have concerns about the roof, I'm not going to trust, if I have a concern, if I had no concerns for whatever reason, then I may go with the appraisal and be like, okay, great. If they're like, yeah, we replaced the roof 3 years ago, we still have a warranty on it. I'm probably not going to get a roof inspection on it, and if they have proof, or it depends on your comfort level, right? If you look at it and you're like, yeah, it looks good, okay, great. If not, if not. So choose your inspections, you schedule them, you do them, and be ready to pay for them. Be ready to pay out of pocket for those inspections. So I want you to get ready for those costs and your appraisal. Your appraisal may be in the 400 to 500s, right? And your inspections may be a few hundred, right, as well. So I would, for the inspection period, I would be comfortable with having 2,000 in cash, right? Really to squeeze by, maybe 1,000, maybe, but I would really be comfortable with 2,000 to just have. So your appraisal comes in at the right price, right? I think for my property, it was like 400. Yeah, it was like 400 on the. I mean, it sold for four, um, something like that. Yeah. So great. If it doesn't come in, especially on a VA appraisal, right? You can appeal it. You can fight for it, right? Your realtor may communicate with the appraisal if there's an issue, if it comes in under. They may have not seen some comparables. They may not have seen this, may not have seen that. So don't push your realtor to do that. It depends. Some local laws can vary, but and it depends as well too because you have the listing agent too. The listing agent they're working more with the appraisal because they're trying to get that price. They're trying to get whatever that number is, 405, 410, whatever it is, right? On the buyer side, the buyer's trying to get a cheaper price or so anyways, that's your realtor's job to work with the appraisal, but the appraisal will come in, and in this case it went through great. I didn't have to do appeal. Perfect. Awesome. Inspection went well. I was cool with that. And then loan, right? So through the loan process, I want you to know that you don't need even good credit. In the VA handbook, there is no minimum on a credit score. Tell everybody, tell all your friends, tell your mama. There's no minimum on this credit score. I had it. Look, when I was getting, was it? I don't know. Maybe it was after. Maybe it was after I had the house for a little bit and I was using it, but I was to the point where I was at an 830. So owning that real estate helped me build my credit even more so. But I think I was already at an 8 when I bought it. But having good credit does help. Sure, it does help when it comes to lending. But don't be scared. Don't let it price you out. Right? Find out. If you would like to get connected with me, I connect you with my lender. He's a veteran, knows the VA loan in and out as well, and we run the numbers, right? Blah, 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 figure out a game plan. But you gotta have the conversation beforehand, right? You gotta talk about this before you want to buy the house, before you're trying to put your clothes on while you're running out the house. It doesn't make any sense. You're gonna forget something, you're gonna mess something up, or you're not even gonna get there because you're so jacked up, right? So you wanna be prepared before it's time to get prepared. Reach out, talk about it. Let's go over things to set this up, and that's all I do with people's is, they're talking about 6 months out, 3 months out, a year out, 2 years out, 3 years out, 5 years out. We have to think about that planning to get you to where you truly want to get to. So we're good on all the contingencies. Everything's a go. Everything's clear. Um, Everything we get concessions too, so they pay my realtor's success fee. They pay some my closing costs, all my title stuff. I'm pretty sure, and it was great. So it was great. So we closed on that property, and then I furnished it with some stuff, like a typical guy does, I guess. And then my idea was to house hack it immediately. I'm gonna move in one of my buddies that I serve with, and we're gonna house hack it. Why not? I have an extra bedroom. It 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 doesn't make sense not to. I've got a I've got a 2-2. Why not? So I rented out to him. That like I said with renting with friends, it could be very intriguing, very intriguing. So I rented out to him, and then he gets custody of his two kids. Bro, I'm 24 in San Diego, but I understand. I've got 9 nieces. I think kids are the motive for everything we should be doing. You know, the future, the kids. We were once the kids. Still are the kids. Uh, but I was not about it. After a few months of that, I was like, dude, your rent's gotta go up, dude. Like these kids, it's just so much. It's a lot. You know, bath time was the worst time. These kids, it was WWE in there. You know what I mean? And but that's but it's okay. It was an experience. It was a journey. I learned from it, and the point was that I house hacked it. So he ended up moving out. I moved in. Another friend of mine, which that also had money issues. At the end of it, he ended up getting kicked out for popping on your analysis. Don't do it, guys. Don't do it. I tell you guys, don't do it. Um, so that's another story. But house hacked, right? And that went well. That went well, and it definitely helped that I knew them. I served with them on units, even though we had issues. But it's very very different with if I had a random person that I didn't know at all. You know, a lot more difficult. Um, I noticed just a lot of people they don't. It's just they don't interact on any level. It's like you guys see like walk past each other every day and don't even say hi. It's a little weird. You know, I think it's a little weird nowadays. Even in apartments with people like, you know, if you live in an apartment and you open your door and your neighbor's in the hallway or something, like you don't go out there. It's like I thought we were all supposed to be a community. Anyways, so house hacking's a great way to save money, and that helped me pay the mortgage a lot, right? Almost I would say half. Um, for a while, it was definitely half. It was definitely half, if not more. So that was great. Being a homeowner, I'm like, this is awesome. So while we were house hacking, at the end of it, once I started getting in my head, okay, I do want to sell, and this is the route that I'm going because I was planning my exit um, about a year out. About a year out, I was like, okay, I'm I really want to do this. So I reached out to my realtor and we talked about value add renovations, right? Since I want him to sell my house, give me suggestions on what's hot, what's going on in the local area that would increase dollar per dollar, right? The best ROI on the property. And it's pretty much forced appreciation. That's what you're doing. So you have appreciation, which is the property appreciating in price over time. You have appreciation over time of okay, in 2020 it was 400K, in 2025 it's 600K. Okay, the value of it sure can go up, the subjective value of that property because there's more humans in the area, there's less inventory, whatever it is. But most of that increase, right, is actually an inflation because the system just goes up over time. So a lot of people don't tell you that, but some of it's inflation. You know, you have to account for inflation because that $600,000 that you got, the in the difference in those 5 years, you have to account for the change of the power of the dollar. So that's just something to consider. Now, forced appreciation is when we're going to force it by we're going to put goodies in here, we're going to put amenities in here that increase the value. Now, there's a lot of stuff that doesn't increase one per one, right? So if I'm at my two bedroom, two bath house that's about 1,300 square feet in San Diego, it doesn't make sense if I were to put um, a two-story infinity pool right in that backyard. You guys saw the photos. I showed you the photos of the house that I bought, right? If I put a two-story infinity pool in that, it would make no sense. First of all, there's not even a lot of pools in that area at all. Two, the an infinity pool of that size, right? That's just totally out of scope for that property. Now, if we're talking about a property in La Jolla or in the mountains of LA, that may make sense. That $100,000 pool on that $4.8 million property, right? That's more realistic for my property. That doesn't make any sense. So he gave me some suggestions. We did the kitchen cabinets, we did the kitchen counters, the backyard. We did all of the fencing. We did new vinyl fencing. We did some turf. We did pavers back there as well. We redid both of the bathrooms. Yeah, we did both of the bathrooms. The main bedroom got a closet system, and the second bedroom also got a closet system. We removed all the popcorn ceiling, and then there was the attic. The, the attic had a crawl space entrance through the main closet. So you had to get a ladder, go through there. I saw the space, and I was able to stand up in there, and there was a step up and a door and a room in there, and there was like a light, and there was a beekeeper's like trove type. It was weird. But when I first was in there, yeah, I was strapped. I'm gonna tell you that much. I was strapped going in there because I was like, there could be some hill has eyes living in here, right? Some weird stuff. I don't know. I don't know. But so we ended up renovating all of that. Finished. So it was finished up there, and then in the hallway we put a drop down stair. So that drop down stair, and that lets you go up into the attic, and then there was like a full bedroom in there pretty much. A little smaller, but especially with the roof, but a full bedroom with electricity, finished walls, a door. So that was pretty cool. We put all that work in. That maybe came out to about 40K, right? That we were putting into everything, into all the work, and then I got it ready to sell, right? Got it. Oh, hold up, my battery's about to die, y'all. I got 20%. All right. I think we'll be all right. So we put about 40K into it. Great. I figured out I wanted to sell. Some people will tell me, "Oh, you shouldn't sell." Right? Thinking back on it now, yeah, it sure, that I could have gone that pathway and held on to it, gotten a property manager or managed it myself, and possibly I just couldn't see that I was gonna get that rent. I couldn't for a 2-1, especially for a 2-1. I could not see that. I just couldn't see us getting that. There could have been some major demo in there to change stuff, of course, to change rooms and maybe add another bedroom, of course. But it's a lot more cost, right? And we have to work out the numbers of, is this actually going to bring a ROI, especially in this area, right? Of, well, can we, to do everything to add a bedroom, and then is it actually going to increase, right? What do the other properties in this community have, right? What does this layout have? Is that common? Is that going to decrease the size of the other rooms a little bit too much? So a lot of other considerations, but I was happy with it. I was content. You don't have to do everything under the sun and make it the biggest home run ever. Like, I think about that, and I'm like, I did that so successfully, pretty much by myself, just by the seat of my pants, figuring it out, asking some of the older heads at work, some advice, and just figuring it out. And it made sense. And a big thing was, it was my income, was that I had the money for the things that I wanted to do. my expenses were so low compared to what I was making. I'm bringing in what 72, about 72 or something every month. So 7,200 about every month or so. I'm like 24, 25. My with my mortgage and my cars, because I had a couple by that time, which were like paid off and stuff. Like I mean, my expenses were like 3,500 bucks a month. You know, 3,500 bucks a month. You're making 72, right? So let's put away the other 35, 37 technically, and invest it, right? And put it into savings. So if I wanted to do something, I had good enough credit with that house, right? I kept building my credit from whatever it was, high sevens or low eights to 830, and having no debt, having multiple vehicles, doing well on all of my mortgage payments. Um, it just put me in a great spot, and I felt like I was very successful, and it helped build up my credit. Help just It was a beautiful feeling safe and comfortable. This is my house. It's got enough. It's not too big for me. It's not too small for me. It's in a quiet neighborhood. I became really great friends to this day with another service member that moved in 2 houses down from me. And he invited me over to his house. He saw me working in my garage, and he was in the Navy too, and we talked about it, and man, and now he's married, and they got a kid, and that was beautiful, because they had, it wasn't them, but he had his house, and it was just so much. Like, think about, some of you guys are in the barracks. You go to your buddy's room and you hang out, and till out whatever hours, and you guys are playing games, and it's fun, it's cool. Imagine that with your own homes, with your own house, right? Where you have surround sound, you got projectors, you got all video game systems, you got anything and everything. You have all the guys there. If you wanted to have a bunch of dudes and a party and a sleepover or whatever, you can do that. You guys could all do that. You could do whatever you want. It's your property, right? And that was great, being able to meet great people there, like my buddy, and build that relationship just through home ownership. We're right there. Just who would have known? And we click so much, compared to, statistically, a lot of the people that I've met in the military. He's probably in like my top 10 of military friends. So that was just a blessing, and that was through home ownership. So we did the renovations. We did our value adds, which had good ROIs, and then we put it on the market. So I cleared everything out, and I was like, great. I put it on the market. I was going on vacation for a few weeks. I was going on leave for like 6 weeks or something like that. I was gonna go travel through a bunch of snow-filled states to go snowboard, to go learn how to snowboard. Montana, Wyoming, Idaho, Colorado. Yeah, it was a great time. And if let's take a look here. I'll show you guys the listing again. And okay. Oh wait, not that one. Oops. Technical difficulties. Cool. All right, yeah, that was my outline. I have to stay on on topic. And I'll tell you what, I have not stuck to this outline at all. I've just been going by the seat of my pants, but I like to at least have an outline. To say I had one. All right. So we listed for 490, right? So that's a 90K difference between what I ended up purchasing for, and we ended up closing at 515, right? So that's 115 over from what I purchased previously, not taking into consideration any concessions as well, right? Um, Especially on my side too. So this could have been closer for me on my side net like 530 or so, right? So we could see we put it up there on 122, which was almost 5 years ago exactly here, and we can see, right, in pretty much, we'll say 3 weeks, we sold it. We closed in 3 weeks, right? That offer came in. I decided, yeah, I like that offer. Yeah, well, why not? And we decided to close on it. To say, yeah, that's fair. I'm not here to bicker back and forth. I think this is the price. The person who came to the table had half of it in cash, and they were willing to do all of it and agree to our terms, and it's what they wanted. That's they didn't want to bicker through it. To them, they understood the value. They saw it, and me too. I was like, yep, I don't want to go back and forth with you. This is a deal for you. It's a deal for me, and we're able to go through and make the deal at 515. There's some fees there, of course, right? Got to pay out. Um, Broker fees, titles, just standard stuff like that. So I was very pleased when I saw it, 90 something thousand dollars or 100 and something thousand. Yeah, 100. I think it was, yeah, 100 and something $1,000 in my bank account. I was like, and because I lived in it for at least 2 years out of the last five, I was exempt from some taxes on it, right? Because on the sale, it's a big tax liability. Well, because I lived in it for 2 out of the last 5, right? That saves me a little bit of money there. And then there's also some incentives too. If I would have taken that money and invested it right into, not right into, a certain time frame into real estate as well. That's called a 1031 exchange. So that's my experience pretty much from the beginning all the way to the end of selling that property, and sitting there with that money and actually seeing it hit my bank account and saying, whoa, like it, it worked. And some people, right, on the investment side, they'd run those numbers and they would say, oh, that it's not the craziest investment. Yeah, it it doesn't need to be. It was my first property. I was in my early 20s. Um, I didn't make any mistakes. I didn't mess anything up. I made money on it. I took my time. I got to enjoy it. I got to actually be a homeowner, and wake up in my own home and do what I wanted to do in my own home. It was a beautiful feeling of safety that I've never felt, because I've never grown up in a home that like we owned, and we moved a lot, so I went to like maybe 10 or 11 public schools. Um, so having the home, right, makes a difference to a lot of people, and a lot of y'all will connect with that, right? Getting out of the barracks, getting out of your ship, coming back from deployment, whatever it is, and actually being in your home, a place that this is mine, this is my bed, right? This is my space. Even in the barracks, right? That's not your mattress, most likely, right? I hope it's your sheets and other stuff, but that furniture is not yours. Someone else was there before you, most likely, and someone most likely is going to be there after you. If the black mold don't kill you, I'll tell you that much. But it's a beautiful, uncomparable feeling to be able to be in your home like that. And so one, it's your home. Two, it's physically giving you shelter, right? What you would pay somewhere else. You're going to pay rent somewhere else, most likely. So that's going towards that as well. So that you've got the financial aspect, you've got the spiritual aspect, right? Where this is making you really feel whole. Pause. But it doesn't need to be that crazy. That's the thing, is don't compare yourself to these gurus that they're doing 100 flips a year. They're doing all. That's their whole business, and that's their whole line. As much as they love it, right, so much to a certain extent, to get to certain scales, it's like you have to be very streamlined and focused, which isn't bad, but you have to leave a lot of your emotions aside. And it's more of ROI. It's more of ROI. What's the investment on this? And there's nothing wrong with that. You can come into this with that mindset. And that's why I always consult people about that criteria in the beginning. If you have that mindset, great. Let's aim for that. That type of criteria, that type of investment, let's go for it. But if you're not focused on that, right, you can go for straight ROI. You can go for, I want what I want. I want what's going to be comfortable for me and what I'm actually going to love and enjoy living in, right? Because you go straight for ROI and it's a beater. It's in the worst neighborhood, and the neighborhood's probably going to take 5 years to turn around, right, and to start appreciating. So you got to stick it out there, right? You have your pros and cons in both, or you go in the middle, split it into two. Hey, I want to make sure this is a okay investment property, and I also want to make sure it's okay for me personally and what I like, and aligns with me, right? So you can have it in the middle. You can have it just ROI, just investor mindset, or you can have it more a personal mindset of I need it tailored for what I want. It's more to house me and my family for forever or for X amount of years. But if you're, hey, I want to stay there for 1 year and get out of there, or I want to stay there for 2 years so I get the tax incentive and then get out of there, and then pull money out of that one, we'll go buy another. You can do all of that. We just got to talk about it. I talk to so many people that they don't know a lot of these gems, the in and outs, right? You can buy a manufactured house, right? You can't buy land. Technically, you can't just buy land, but there is a way to buy land and to get a new construction property together and to have that built. So you could have a new home built on 5 acres. You could have a duplex built on an acre, half an acre. You can have a triplex built or a quadplex, right? You can combine your VA loan with your buddy that is also a military member. Both your VA loan, that was close. That was close. Both your VA loans both your VA loans together, both of your VA loans together can get you a bigger property, more expensive property. Well, you're combining your benefits together, or if you don't want to go bigger, you could just split your entitlement and get a single family house and split that together, but you're splitting your entitlement. Right. Now, a lot of people ask, especially the military out there, right, with VA loans specifically, well, what's an entitlement? How do I use my VA loan? How do I even get my VA loan, my COE, right? What is that? My certificate of eligibility? What do I even qualify for the VA loan, right? Are you a reservist? Are you National Guard? Are you ROTC? A lot of cadets don't know. A lot of cadets don't know about the VA loan, that you can use it. So a lot of people just don't know about these different aspects, right? And that's what this is all for. This is all for that, so that you can basically get this information, learn it, try to use it, right? We want you to use it. Just don't sit on it for years, right? And that's where I come into play. If you're like, dude, I need my butt going on this, push me, right? I'm the person to come bother you, to come push you, right? To come make sure we get this done. And push through. But share with others, share with your friends, right? Because imagine you and your platoon, your buddies, you guys all get out of the barracks at the same time. You guys or you guys stack it. One of you guys gets out, and then you guys all move in with them. And there's so many things that you can do. It's just, let's have a conversation about it, and I bet you we can solve this problem and come up with some type of solution, right? One way or another. And not just with the VA loan, but with other types of loans as well, which we're going to have classes on that. We're going to have courses on that. And actually, I want you to check out this next playlist here, which is specifically for veterans. And it's going to be right here. I'm going to put it right here. So especially for veteran qualifiers, if you want to know a little bit more about the VA loan specifically, I want you to go up here. And I'm going to place the playlist there. Take a look at it. Leave comments. About any of it. If you have questions about any of it, leave comments, please. I do reply. This is all managed by me, done by me. And you can go to my website, themilitaryrealtor.us, book your free consultation there. No obligation, no contracts, nothing. Just have a conversation with me. You know, that's it. Just a few minutes of your time about what's going on, what you see in a few years, you know, if you have any projections, or if you're just looking to get some information, you know, you're curious, it doesn't matter. You know, go to that website right there, themilitaryrealtor.us, schedule your appointment right now. Put it on the schedule, and I'll see you there, all right? So make sure you don't miss out on any of our daily content, right? So make sure to subscribe here and also go follow on Instagram at M, that's Mike, M Realty Co. on Instagram. Find us on there. It's also in the description as well with our website and everything else. And it's Mercedes, the Military Realtor. God bless and good night.